You know, it's infuriating to me looking at the future because as much as you want to look at the future with eyes of optimism, you end up looking at the future and seeing just how draconian everything is becoming. One example I'm talking about today is the fact that everything is going digital, which in and of itself is not a bad thing, but it also isn't good for the rights of the consumer. If you want to, say, watch a TV show and be able to watch it when you want, how you want, regardless of if you have an internet connection or not, you can't do that with streaming, which is why streaming is a very flawed way of delivering content. You can't technically own or download these things anymore. You just have access to basically a cloud server full of this stuff. And so long as you have access to it, as long as you pay for it, you have access to it. But that's a very flawed way of doing things. You know, I'm somebody who grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s. I understand that physical content is important. You want to be able to own the things that you watch. You want to be able to own the things that you play. And unfortunately, we're going further and further away from that model. Now, I do think that there's room for both. There are some people who might say, oh, well, digital's the future and we just have to embrace it. But while that might be true, I still want to be able to own the things that I purchase. And more companies don't want me to own what I purchase. They want me to just lease it from them or pay to use it. And that's it. And that's the model that they want to keep going forward. And I don't agree with that in any way, shape, or form. I think that content should be something that you have a certain amount of rights to once you purchase it. Call me old-fashioned, and trust me, I am, like I said, born late 90s, early 2000s, 30 as of the recording of this video. Not terribly old, but not terribly young. But I am old enough to remember a time when people used to own the movies, the television shows, and the games they bought. And now we are pushing all of that away for the sake of convenience, and we're not questioning the downsides to it. Or we're brushing aside the downsides to it. We're not taking a solid look at it and going, what do I really benefit from this in the long term? In the short term, we get to watch a TV show or we get to watch a movie. Oh, sure, that's fine. But in the long term, if these services shut down, then you're flat out of luck. There's nothing you can do about it unless you're willing to go out and buy them physically, which I would highly recommend. Buy as many physical TV shows on DVD and Blu-ray, and the same with movies. Show these companies that there is still a market for physical media. There absolutely is. Don't make them erase physical media. They're starting to get to the point where that's what they're going to do. And you can't let them do that because you as a consumer have a right to be able to purchase goods and be able to keep those goods. Don't let companies take that away from you. That is not... People say, well, that's just becoming a luxury that people won't be able to have anymore. Don't let people talk you into that nonsense. You have a right to be able to purchase a show if they let you, if they give you the ability to do so. So don't let them erase that and take you for a ride to where they control when and where you watch your content, because that's exactly what they're doing right now with all the cloud streaming services, and it's not positive. They're doing it with music, movies, television, games, and I'm tired of it. I'm fine with downloading something to a physical drive, and as long as you have an access to an account, you can download it as many times as necessary. I'm not fine with being able to lose the things that you spend a lot of money on just because you don't have an internet connection. I don't feel like that's right. I don't feel like that's something that we as a culture should be embracing under any circumstances. But yet, again, here we are. And so I find myself constantly frustrated whenever I'm looking at new media, because the only other option besides getting it physical is getting it through less than savory means, let's say. I won't come out and say it because I don't know if I can come out and say it, but you can pretty much assume what I mean. At the end of the day, it's not good for consumers. Consumers want to be able to keep the goods that they purchase. I just noticed that Wondershare Filmora, the company or the product that's available for video editing, apparently they used to have a lifetime subscription option, and they just pulled the rug out from underneath their subscribers. They just said, no, you can't have this anymore. We're moving to a pay-to-use model, and there is no more lifetime guarantee. So all of the people who got those lifetime guarantees and paid for them are being left high and dry, and now they have to pay more to continue using the services that they do. It's unbelievable. But this stuff is becoming incredibly common, and people are trying to make excuses for it. I see it all the time. Well, the company can do what it wants. It's their product. Well, the company has a business model that they want to follow. Screw that. At the end of the day, you are the customer. You tell them what you want. They make something, and you're not entitled to buy it. You tell them. You vote with your wallet. And you encourage others to do the same. You don't force anybody to do anything they don't want to do, of course, but you vote with your wallet. You let them know, I don't want this. I want the rights to the product that I purchased and the service that I signed up to use. Just recently, Iran Trains, or N3V Games Trains, I guess that's what it is now, they changed their model too. They had a subscription model for content. And I got grandfathered into the plan. The plan was $10 a month, and I get to keep that, but they changed it from that to a more expensive model. All the people who have it are grandfathered in, and who knows how long that grandfathering will last. I have to keep checking my emails to make sure that they're not charging me double for content. And it's a game that I barely play anymore. I still play it a lot, which is why I keep the subscription going, and it's only $9.99. But should I choose to cancel that, if I choose to sign back up, it's going to be more expensive. And it boggles my mind why companies constantly do this. If they're offering you a service or something for a certain fee and then they're changing it, it's absurd. And this is also another reason why people need to start reading end-user license agreements. You really should. I know some of them are long, and some of them are pages long. If it's pages and pages and pages long, then you probably shouldn't be involved with the product. Because basically what they're saying in no uncertain terms is that we reserve the right to be able to cancel your service at any time or to modify your service at any time without your consent. That's basically what's going on. And most people aren't privy to that because they don't want to read a long user license agreement. And most people with common sense assume that that's what they're saying. But they just trust in good faith that the company won't be scummy enough to take advantage. Well, now the companies are starting to get scummy and take advantage. So now what are we going to do? Are we going to vote with our wallets and not continue to buy products where they can immediately take them away from us because they're only distributed through digital means? Or are we going to vote with our wallets and say, no, we want stuff that we can preserve. We want stuff that we can have. We'll continue to buy from you if you provide this stuff. You don't need to go with this constant model of constant revenue. This is... it's annoying. And I understand that it's their justification is probably, look, there's server costs involved now, there's more maintenance, we have to hire more people. And I'm not unsympathetic to that at all. I'm really not. But at the same time, there's better ways to monetize something than to restrict how much a user can consume a product. This is America. Companies used to make stuff that we would constantly go back for, and now they want to make something that just to use as standard, we have to continually pay for, instead of something that we can keep and then go back for a newer version of something. It's ridiculous. Do you know how many software versions that there are of different video editing softwares, of different games? And with games, thankfully, you don't have to pay for software updates, but a lot of these video editing software and other softwares, you have to pay for new versions and new features. And they're basically selling you a new product over and over again, as opposed to going with the lifetime model where you pay once and then you get the upgrades, because they lose money that way. And I understand they lose money that way, but they need to find other ways to make money than modifying that product that people originally signed up for, because they're basically conning those people. It's legal. It's perfectly legal. Again, they write the terms, they make the terms, that's legal. But it's scummy. And it makes the consumer not want to trust them and not want to use the product. It bites them in the rear. And they don't seem to realize how badly it bites them in the rear. Wondershare Filmora doesn't seem to understand how badly this has bitten them. I forget what the YouTuber's name was who made the video on it, but he got over 1 million views. And he actually got one of his videos copyright stricken because he talked about it. So there's some really scummy stuff going on over there. But it got me thinking. We are losing our ability to be able to own media. To be able to own media so that we can consume it whenever we want, however we want. We are being beholden to these companies to be able to use a product that we essentially pay for, but we don't pay a flat rate so that we can own them, we just pay to use. And some people say, well, remember video rental? Wasn't that the same principle? Yes, exactly, but if you really liked a movie, you went out and bought it. You didn't just rent it 5 billion times. If you were a kid, you might have rented it because it was cheaper, but as an adult, you went out and bought the video if you actually liked it, because I'm sure the cassette or the DVD would have been out there. The VHS cassette, rather. Not the music cassette. Boy, those were the days, weren't they? Doesn't anybody miss those days? The late 90s, early 2000s, the 80s, the 90s? The days where physical media was the only way? Yeah, it had its drawbacks, but you owned your product. Now you don't own the product anymore. You just pay for a service. Everything is a service, just like the essential services you need, and that's the main core. People are already paying ridiculous amounts of money because of inflation and this recession that apparently we're not in. They're paying ridiculous amounts already for the stuff that they need. So this stuff on top of that, and people are just spending money they don't have. Stop spending money you don't have. Buy physical media. Buy physical music. Buy physical movies. Download physical copies of things wherever these storefronts let you. Don't use the streaming services. Get the stuff directly through whatever means that you can. Try to make sure they're legal means, of course. I don't want to promote any sort of non-legal activity, but let these companies know that you want physical media, and you want, at the very least, media that you can have on your device and not have it removed from you for any given reason. That's what we need to do, but we're not doing that. We're not doing that. And as a result, I think we're going to lose a lot of media as a result of this, because these companies are going to bury TV shows and movies and things, because as time goes along, whatever is socially acceptable ends up being different, and some things end up being changed and censored and outright removed from platforms. We need to get back to physical media. And at the very least, owning and having a digital version on a physical drive again. Because if we don't, like I said, again, we're going to lose all of this media historically, and that's just going to be sad. It's really sad to me. I don't recognize the world we live in for several reasons anymore, and this is one of them. Because I see a draconian future where companies only want you to pay for their services, and all they're offering is services, nothing tangible. Stuff that they can revoke access to for any given reason. They might just decide they don't like you, and so they pull all of your streaming services. Is that the future we want? It's certainly not the future I want. And it just gets me very black-pilled on this sort of stuff. So, anyways, that's my 2 cents on physical media. Let me know what you think about all this down below in the comments. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Super Koopa. God bless. Have a good one. Peace.